Hi, I'm Amy.
I'm Laura.
And we are TwoPaperGirls.
We're here today with another Top 5 Wednesday created by GingerreadsLainey, leaving the links down below as always. This week's topic was Top 5 Chapter Titles.
I don't really have strong feelings to chapter titles, although you come across some where you're like, oh, I wonder what's happening in this one because of the cool title. And when I actually looked at my bookcase, I saw a couple that I thought, yeah, no, they made me really happy when I saw them. So let's just get straight into it.
My number 5 is from Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion. I chose this as it's slightly different. All the chapters start with a sort of little diagram of anatomy, like weird heart diagrams and heads, and I think that's cool because it's a zombie book. It's kind of what the zombies are appealed to, and that was a bigger part of the story as well, which I can't remember now. Something to do with how the zombies were created was to do with these diagrams as well, but I just thought it was sort of a interesting thing. It's not a proper chapter title, but I thought it was a creative way of starting every chapter.
My fifth favourite chapter title is from The Catastrophic History of You and Me by Jess Rothbard. One of my favourite books from when I was a kid. I really liked it. Each chapter title is like an 80s pop song, and this one is like All You Need Is Love, and it's quite a sad book because obviously she looks like she's in heaven there. This title was it's like an epilogue. It was like the bit at the end that was kind of brought it up after it had gone down in happiness, and it was just a really nice way to end it.
My number 4 choice is the most recent book I read that has chapter titles. That's Me, Earl and the Dying Girl. These chapter titles were really great. They were really funny, and one of my favourites is Earl betrays our entire creative partnership while I'm distracted by the munchies. This was one of my favourite chapters. It's when Greg accidentally gets high, and it was just a really funny chapter, and I love that the title is sort of the chapter title so long and sums up what happens. And yeah, there were really creative chapter titles in this book, and I thought they were really clever.
My fourth favourite chapter title is from City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare. I checked, there is no spoilers in these chapter titles, don't worry. And that is chapter 23, Judas' Kiss. Because at the point you know who Judas is, you're like, why is he kissing? It was just a very interesting title, and I was like, I don't really want to read this because I think I know what's going to happen, and it did, and it was horrible, but just read City of Heavenly Fire. That chapter title made me worry, but it's okay.
My third favourite chapter title is from A Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Rings, and that is from the prologue, and if you can see that's quite small, concerning hobbits. I love this because it's just a really clever chapter. It's just a really clever chapter title, and it's also the name of my favourite piece of music from the film, Concerning Hobbits. Go listen to it if you haven't, it's great. So whenever I hear those two words together, I think of the film and the music and the start of this book, and it's just a really cute chapter title.
My third favourite chapter title is actually also from The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. It is Out of the Frying Pan and Into the Fire. This just is a really smart one. And when Gandalf says it in the film, you're like, ooh. It's just a really clever title because you think everything's okay and you're like, have a breather, but then you read this chapter title like, oh no, this is a fantasy adventure novel. It's not going to end, and that was just a really cute one.
My second favourite chapter title is from Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. You know I love this book. And a bit like the Lord of the Rings one, my favourite chapter title is Do You Believe in Fairies? Because I think it's my favourite part of the book and the film. It's when Tinker Pearl has died and everyone has to talk about how much they believe in fairies to bring her back to life, and the music for it is really great. Again, go listen to it, James Newton Howard, and it just gives me a lot of feels, that chapter does, and I just really like the title.
My second favourite is 100 Sideways Miles by Andrew Smith, and my favourite title is 20 miles per second because if you watched my wrap up for this book, I was raving about how the guy in this book, I can't remember his name, but he sees the world in distance instead of time, and he's like, oh, instead of an hour has passed, he'll be like, oh, I've travelled this much as the Earth rotates around the sun, and it was just a really interesting way to look at life, and I don't know, this just struck me, this chapter title.
When I first saw this Top 5 Wednesday, the first thing that came into my mind is Harry Potter. I've always loved the chapter titles in Harry Potter, but a lot of them just sort of describe what happens, and my favourite one is from A Chamber of Secrets, and that is Mudbloods and Murmurs. I just love the sound of it, Mudbloods and Murmurs. It's just nice to say and all alliterative, and it's just a really great chapter as well. It's when Harry starts hearing all the voices, and it's just, I just really like the chapter. It just struck me when I read it because you don't know what the murmurs are, what's a mudblood, and I just think it's a very creative title.
My favourite is from the Spooks Curse by Joseph Delaney. I love this series, and my favourite chapter title is A Sacrifice.
Ooh.
This is the climax of the book, and the chapter before it I nearly picked as well because it's Mam's letter. He gets a letter and it like prophesies what's going to happen, and then this chapter title just sums up the worst nightmare. And this book did actually scare me as a kid. I was terrified of this series, and now I'm just like, it's so cute.
Oh.
But this one was actually scary. And look at the Bane. He's so scary, and this just looks amazing. And this chapter was just the perfect ending to one of the best books in a children's series.
That's it for our top 5 chapter titles. They were quite hard to talk about why you like them. I think it's just if they make a good first impression and leads to a good chapter, really.
We'll see you on the next Top 5 Wednesday, guys. Bye!
Yay, words together.